What is your Tinder horror story? It ended up being a double date with his mom and her OkCupid date. He told me that he and his mom were a package deal. I was mortified, and there was no second date. I messaged a girl who wanted to meet up. So I go out to the coffee shop and she's not there. I ask her what's up, and she totally admits to being a dude catfishing me just so he could check me out in public. And goes on a rant about what a shame it is that I'm a lesbian because he totally ducked me. I feel like the creepiest part for me was that he never once tried to get nudes or anything, which I'd at least understand the effort for. He just wanted to stare at me in public. Found a profile using a picture of me that was obviously ripped from my Facebook account. Come to find out it was my ex-wife trying to stir up drama and problems between my current wife and myself. A single friend of ours texted me a screenshot of it. My wife is an intelligent woman and didn't fall for it. This became a horror story for my ex, because this, among other shady things she had done, landed her with stalking charges and identity theft charges. Sucks to be stupid. Not me. My dad. Not Tinder either. It was Match.com. My dad had been on Match for about 3 months with some success. Has a tall Australian man who's decent looking, so he had some interest. One weekend he got sent his first nude, which he thought had strange, but brushed it off. Later that week he got 6 more nudes from the same woman. Before he blocked her, he decided that he would open them just for kicks. 5 of the pictures are just straight up vag shots, which he said were incredibly unappealing and had terrible lighting. The 6th picture, however, was something different. The woman was standing in her bra in front of mirror, puss out, winking, with a bunch of herbs shoved in her bra. Basil, parsley, thyme, all that good stuff. The caption on the picture was spice rack. She was swiftly blocked after my dad stopped laughing long enough to find the block button. First date. We went to see a movie. She brought her sister along without consulting me first, and I somehow ended up paying for both of their tickets. Bit of a doormat. Old me. We went to see Star Wars: The Force Awakens. Turns out, neither of them had seen a Star Wars film before, nor had any idea at all what was going on. Awesome. Date ended at McDonald's after the movie with 1 hour plus of her eating fries one at a time, and her sister talking shit about basically everyone at her work. To this day I'm not sure what that date was even about. There was no second date. It kind of sounds like you were just their free shit ticket, bro. Chatted with this girl for about 2 weeks. Every conversation went well and eventually I got her number and she started sharing nudes and speaking dirty. Late on evening after a stressful work day she talks me into driving an hour to come get coffee with her. She spends the next hour and a half non-stop talking about her ex and how she has to see him at the bank and all this personal upset ex-girlfriend stuff. She cuts me off anytime I try to speak or change the subject right back to him. A day later I get a text about how I didn't do any talking and I was too boring to be anything more than just friends with. She got irate when I pointed out she would not allow me to speak and only wanted to talk about her ex-boyfriend when we have never once had a slow or boring conversation before meeting up. So I met this girl on Tinder and went for a lunch date. We had a pretty good connection, so we decided to have dinner as well. After having a few drinks, one thing led to another and ended up back at my place. We hooked up and went to sleep. Middle of the night I wake up. She's intensely staring at me while she's crouched behind the bed. I asked her if everything is alright. She said yes and got back into bed. I thought little creepy, but probably nothing to worry about. She lays down to cuddle with me and she sweat. At the time, I was like, damn, I must just be a stallion. Fast forward to the morning. She's gone and there's a wet puddle beside the bed. She peed on my floor. I still don't understand it. I had a bathroom, but maybe she just got lost and couldn't hold it. I did not hear from her again. Edit. Just want to be clear. We were both tipsy and not sloppy drunk. Not my story, but I knew a guy who had a Freudian slip. More dark side Kermit. Bad enough that it ruined everything. I was told this by him after he got home, and suffice to say he was like, why the duck did I say that? Date had been going well, and they were walking back to a bus station. They passed a creepy alley, and she said something to the effect of why I would not like to go down that alley. To which he responded, I imagine you are very rapeable. Suffice to say, she ran for the hills, and he was mortified. He very much was not a creepy person, and had no clue why the hell he said that, nor has he, to the extent of my knowledge, raped anyone. But Christ almighty, do I agree with the girl's decision to run. Fresh off a breakup on campus. Match with this really good looking girl who is talking pure filth. Obviously I'm just an idiot with a hurt heart, so I don't question much. Head over to her place a few days later. She insisted I come over on a certain day at X, 20th o'clock. Usually I would have been sketched out, but it was the middle of the day on a B1G10 campus. What exactly could go that south? Half hour in, her husband came home. I was being used in revenge plot. No more Tinder. First date. She wanted me to get into a bar fight with the perfectly friendly guy who'd bought us a round of shots that night. Why? Because she found out he was a Scorpio. Talked to him for 2 weeks before we went out, and no red flags, so we ended up going out to dinner. I said I hadn't been out in a while because I was trying to save money for a washer and dryer. He told me instead of saving for that I should save for a boob job. I didn't even know how to reply, so he followed up with, no, it's not a bad thing. My sister and mom both had small tits and got boob jobs and they look amazing. This is all before the waitress even brought our drinks. I just got up and left. Me and a girl agreed to a hookup. This was a few years ago. We did the traditional swap nudes beforehand to make sure we both liked what we saw. And she shows up to my place 5 months pregnant. I asked how TF she hide that stomach, and she said, hey, you only asked to see my tits and ass. You never asked for a full body touch, but duck you. Sexted with this really hot girl after matching for about a day, and she starts getting all kinky with me. She then tells me she's actually a guy trolling me. I said, joke's on you, cause he unmatched. This guy asked me if I would be interested in dating his dad. Pretty sure that guy was a catfish of said dad pretending to be guy. Met up with a Tinder girl at Dave & Buster's. She brought me there for a ducking pyramid scheme sign up presentation. Guess I respect the hustle. I went to his place and we hooked up, but after he goes, so you wanna know what I'm really into? And I was like, sure, and then he grabs my foot. I have a really irrational fear of people touching my feet, so I ran the hell out of there anyway. I get to the living room on the way out, and it turns out to be his parents' house, and I look at his mother and see she was my old therapist. Met a guy. Decent conversation. Smart. Funny. Mutual nerdy hobbies. We decide to meet up at the local gamer bar and play some games while having our first date. Get in. Sit down. Dude has no teeth. Says a hack dentist told him they all had to be removed. Couldn't get dentures due to budget. Needed to wait for bone shards go fall out of his gums, etc. Proceeded to spit all over our food while talking. Which granted, I knew he couldn't help. But if he can hide something this big from someone, what else could he be hiding? Plus I couldn't stomach the thought of making out with someone with no teeth. Well, I've only gone on one Tinder date. We talked for a bit, and I agreed to pick her up at Starbucks. She looked nothing like her pictures, but I thought I should be nice and at least hang out with her for a bit. We went to her place and the entire house reeked like cat pee. Like saturated. Then as she proceeded to show me her massive collection of animal tail butt plugs, she screamed at her chihuahua and smacked it right on the nose, and without missing a beat just asks if I want to make out on the couch. I awkwardly sat down and pretended to look at my phone and made up that my grandma was dying so I could get pho. Used me to get her ex-boyfriend jealous. She catfished me, and our first and last date was just as stalking her ex. She pretended to laugh out loud to get his attention, but she kept snorting halfway through. She got drunk, and I had to take her home. At which I realized she shat on my car seat. She tried to get me to date her, but I just ignored her and never went back to Tinder. Matched with someone who seemed to be 27. He was 50. I matched with a girl who was also named Tyler. She messaged me and just said Tyler. So I said Tyler. This went back and forth like 3 or 4 times. Just saying Tyler. So then I said, I think this is probably how Pokemon used Tinder. She unmatched me. Probably the funniest thing I ever said on Tinder. And she didn't get it. Clearly it would have never worked out with us. Every time I swipe I get another mama who wants to go on an adventure. I don't even get far enough to experience horror stories. My Tinder horror story was being offered $30 for a premium Snapchat and not immediately saying no. Hey, thanks for watching and don't forget to subscribe.